live?
I've got it pulled up. We're not live.
Are we live?
I wish we were live at this point, Bobby. This would be great.
Are we live? Sometimes it takes a little bit of a delay. Are we live?
We are totally.
Bam, bam, bam.
We are not live.
We are live.
We are not live.
You're wrong. You're wrong. We are live.
Well, how are you? What do you mean we're live?
I mean, we're live.
Well, my phone lied to me, and all I got
Your phone's
is this
dead.
person dancing. You explain that one to me. Anyways,
We are live.
we're live.
Bam, bam, bam. We are live. All right, what's going on? We're in New York. We got myself up here from Florida, Robert Schmitz from Texas, and Justin from New Jersey. It feels like the day before the draft because tomorrow is our draft day and mock draft episode, which is always my favorite podcast of the year. I've got the rundown for my draft day speech, and I've got all but 2 of my 7th-round picks done for the mock draft. It's annoying because usually 7th-round picks, it's like, okay, let me look at who's aboard and then go watch those players and pick them, but Julian is rushing my timeline. And the last couple of years we haven't had 7th-round picks. What's going on, guys?
I mean, not much, man. I am so excited. This has been one of the most fun drafts that I've seen to prepare for. Certainly one of the ones that I've put in just about the most work. You come on in here, Justin.
We're rubbing elbows.
Oh yeah. You
We're
and
rubbing
me.
elbows this show.
I can't wait.
Oh, you don't have a microphone, Justin?
No, we're sharing.
We're sharing. We're brothers. We were born this way. We were attached to the hip.
This is true.
But anyways, I can't wait to see how this goes. Not just for the Giants, for the whole draft board. I mean, the ride all the way down to 25 is going to be an electric one. I can't wait to sit here with you guys. I do want to ask, because before we get started, are we trading up? We're not trading up, right?
No, where the Giants roster is, I don't want trade ups.
And
Unless it's like we're trading up to 22 and we're giving up a 5th-round pick to trade at the 22.
And I did a little bit of this last year. I got a text message yesterday.
Okay.
They may want to trade back. I think that there's a lot of guys that they don't love, maybe they like.
Trade back to me would be like they like corners for the first pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a really good corner class. It is a really good corner class.
Where it's like so. We'll answer some questions. We'll go through it. I've officially put together my 10-man realistic big board for the Giants. I'm gonna break that down tomorrow on Bleacher Report, and then we'll scroll through it on our mock draft podcast. Robert, you have issue with it though.
Yeah.
Because I have 3 players, a defensive tackle, a safety, and an edge player who could be there ahead of the wide receivers, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, and Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, let me go off because the chat agrees with me. At least some people in the chat agree with me, and thank you guys. That we were just watching a bunch of Giants film. That'll go up on a separate channel at another time. We're really excited to talk through some of the things that Brian Daboll was able to do with the Giants offense. And while I love your love for Kalijah Kancey, for Miles Murphy, for Brian Branch, I think all these guys are flat studs. I also think that whether it's Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, or even Quentin Johnston, if that's the position the Giants get put in, a receiver makes so much sense for this team. And it's not just need. It's not that simple, right, Bobby? It's more that a first-round talent at wide receiver has an option to has the ability to give Daniel Jones an outlet with the ball and, frankly, let you craft play calls around what that guy's skill set is able to do and frees up the rest of what happens on your offense. Because while Wan'Dale Robinson is really, really good, I can see the Giants getting so much better if they have a wide receiver one. It doesn't have to be, Justin, the best wide receiver one in football. But if you get a guy, to use an example, Bobby, if you get a guy at DJ Moore's level now in Chicago, if you get a guy at CeeDee Lamb's level, which I think Flowers and Addison could end up being, I like Flowers a little bit to do that more than Addison, then you're able to, again, your offense takes a serious jump forward because without one of those guys, you're just another one of those offenses that can't do that. You know what I mean?
Would you take Tyler Lockett if he was like brand new Tyler Lockett over like what you think Kalijah Kancey or Miles Murphy would be?
So the problem is that while I appreciate your Tyler Lockett comparison, would you take Antonio Brown over Kalijah Kancey?
Yeah, but I don't know if Zay Flowers is going to be like, I'm not projecting any of these guys to be that guy.
I don't know if they will be.
Yeah,
either.
and they could be. Like Zay Flowers could be a great wide receiver. But
Right.
Here's my thing: is the Giants have put together a wide receiver room that can get through a year without it. It's not going to be some great wide receiver group, but it's not.
Totally.
It's not going to be like the beginning of the Giants season where they were running out Marcus Johnson, David Sills, washed up Kenny Golladay. Like this. It's not going to be that level of bad,
Right.
Unless everybody gets hurt, which in Giants history has happened. But wide receiver one, I kind of feel like the Giants are in a place where it's like when they get their wide receiver, it's got to be like the plan has to be for that guy to be the one. Now, again, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnson, if we're picking those guys at 25, I'm happy. There's just other guys at other positions that I think are better players. And the Giants roster is in a position where I think you just take best player available. Like, yes, did we go to the final 8 teams last year? Yeah. But I don't think we're one move away from being in the final 4 of the team. So my view on this draft for the Giants is get the player who 3 years from now, when you're looking back at the draft, you say, which one of those guys is just the best pro?
Totally. And that's the thing. Like, this whole BPA conversation versus need always gets kind of messy. I'll tell you that what you're saying about the receiver room in New York sounds a lot like what I know I said about the receiver room of, oh, Lord, it was Darnell Mooney. It was Equanimeous St. Brown. It was
Here's the
Dante
difference,
Pettis.
though. Daniel Jones has proven that he can get by without a great wide receiver room. Justin Fields, where he is as a passer, is not there.
And that's the thing.
Now, he can get by on his legs and stuff, and I, if I'm a Bears fan, I have a ton of hope for Justin Fields.
Sure.
But right now, as a passer, it's really bad.
Oh, and you don't need to pretend it isn't. Like, it definitely is. It's more that, to me, when I look at a lot of the film we were just watching, Justin, there's a bunch of the open field crossers. There's a bunch of the things that Dable is doing, for the Giants offense that I think works with lower tier receivers that can run a little bit, like Darius Slayton. But there's more of these play calls that they're not even trotting out because they don't have the dude.
And even just from like a statistical standpoint, like, you can point to what Kafka and Dable did well last year, and and even the Giants were about average in points scored. They were bottom of the barrel in explosive plays and 20-plus yard, not even just 20-plus yard passing plays, but they were just 20-plus yard plays in general. And that at the end of the day, we said it heading into this year, and we're saying it heading into, we said it heading into last year, and we're saying it again heading into this year, that the stat and the category that they need to improve the most on is explosive plays. That is what will... it's crazy how good the Giants' offense was last year without it, and not even just without it, with it being almost non-existent in some games. But that is what will catapult the Giants' offense into being an above-average offense, which we all know. So again, I think to kind of put my own bow on the 25 conversation, Kancey, Branch versus the receivers, I'm very cool with Flowers and Addison at 25, but it's a matter of there are 2 guys that are realistic, and for me, Branch and Kancey, I'm right there with Bobby. Those 2 guys, I just like them more, and I think that I think right now, and even in projection, they could project as better football players. But we've seen plenty of times in the draft too, especially with receivers taken in the latter part of the first round, or even just relatively second round, third round guys turn into good players, even though even though they maybe don't project as wide receiver ones, especially with Jordan Addison. I can very much see a world where Jordan Addison can be a wide receiver 1 given the right situation, right quarterback, right scheme.
And to your point,
but I don't think Addison's going to help you in the explosive plays. Like he's gonna do the stuff that Daniel Jones is like a guy like Sterling Shepard for Daniel Jones, and I think. What I want is for the Giants roster to be in a spot next year where, hey, maybe we need to put like wide receiver 1s open up for trade. Like DJ Moore with the Bears. Now we're not doing like a trade back from first, but we've seen we did a podcast, a mailbag podcast when people talk about trade for wide receiver 1. I said probably not right now, but in a year or so, yeah. Like we've seen those work out. Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown. Like we see Stephon Diggs, even though that guy the draft slot ended up being picked with Justin Jefferson. But they didn't know that at the time. If the Eagles draft Justin Jefferson, we don't ever have that conversation. Right. Where those work out, or if the Giants are picking 19 or 20 next year, or like say they're one of losing as a wild card team, or our fear is that this team does regress a little bit, and because they were playing above their talent, and maybe misses the playoffs and they have round 17. Well, we know you have a certified stud in next year's class in Marvin Harrison Jr. I haven't looked at the next class besides that. Marvin Harrison Jr., just anytime I'm watching a corner cover him, I'm
Stud.
like, dude's unreal. Like, he's the best wide receiver. And I love Jamar Chase. Loved him. And I'm like, Marvin Harrison Jr. clears Jamar Chase. But, like, wide receiver for the last few years has been pretty damn deep. You know, where this year isn't maybe. Like, where, you know, it kind of starts at that 15 to 20 range. So, to me, again, for my top 7 of realistic choices, 3 of them are wide receivers. But it's just, if there's better players there, I'm taking best player available. I want to make this Giants roster the best roster, not necessarily the best offense for this year.
Totally. And I mean, Darren Waller helps a lot. Like you talked about the wide receiver.
That's
room.
huge too.
Waller helps.
We forget about that. And something I was talking with Sean Marash, of the Fan about this the other day, is that everyone said Evan Engram had his best year this past season for the Jaguars, and you're like, oh, see what he could do in a good scheme. It was his best year in total, but it wasn't his best year on a per-game basis. His best year on a per-game basis was in 2019 with Pat Shurmur, and who was the quarterback that year? Daniel Jones. There were some Eli Manning games in there too. And it's like, okay, but Darren Waller is so much better than Evan Engram. So much better than Evan Engram. And now we have an offense that will scheme around him, unlike the 2 years of purgatory that we were in with Jason Garrett. So it's like Darren Waller helps a lot with that in the creative explosive. Like, no tight end. He missed like 7 or 8 games this year, and he led tight ends this year in explosives. So that helps a lot, and I think that gets forgotten by me sometimes when we're having the wide receiver conversation. So I want the Giants, when they attack wide receiver, to go get their guy. You know, now if Zay Flowers, Addison, or Quentin Johnston are the best player available, take them. Got no problem with any of those 3 guys being the pick at 25, even though Johnston gives me a little bit of fear. But I am true. Everyone says best player available until you're in a position where you got to take best player available, and that's where I'm at.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, to your point, to what you were saying, if you take Kalijah Cansey, which, first of all, I don't know if he's actually going to make it to 25.
He shouldn't.
I mean,
Him and Branch should not make it, and that's why
Branch will get beat deep here or there. Like, you know, Jalen Hyatt beat him on a post. There was another. What game was I watching?
Right, but Brian Branch was also a glorified slot corner at Alabama, where his NFL kind of projected role, while I think he could take a lot of snaps at slot corner, it's going to be it's going to be like that Minka Fitzpatrick kind of transition. You know, unless a team kind of puts their hand down like Flores did and was like, no, you're going to be a slot corner, and then Minka requests a trade, and then the rest is history. Right. What was my point? My initial point?
You were refuting me saying.
You were saying that they may go sooner.
Yeah, they should go sooner. Like the reason why, like, we're so like
Cansey is like continuously mocked to 25 or later. Like, I did a mock draft with on Friday night with. It was 32 people who cover their team. So they know their team and know their wants. And Cansey was there at 25. So it's like, maybe I'm hoping he falls there. I know the Giants just signed Ashawn Robinson, which could throw a little bit of wrench, but I'm not letting a 1-year contract stop me from drafting anybody. No,
Nacho's on a 1-year deal. Ashawn Robinson's on a 1-year deal. Oh, Nacho's on 2 years? Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
You can get it after 1. That's what they say.
You know, Bobby doesn't have to remind himself that all the receivers are on 1-year deals too, as far as I remember.
They basically are. Darius Slayton's on a 2-year, could be a 1-year. Paris Campbell 1 year, Shep 1 year, Wandale obviously long. Hodgins. Does Hodgins have still have the restricted free agency thing next year? I don't know, but
all the same, I mean, Kalijah Cansey is wicked fun. But
anytime you bring up Cansey, there is a lot of people who be like, no, sorry, not it, because of the size and stuff.
Which I get.
Which is why he could fall there.
If I didn't see as many good reps as we did of him playing SEC-level competition and holding his own, like that Tennessee game he had.
He dominated Tennessee.
He was electric all throughout Tennessee. And I know not every one of his games was that dominant, but you got to think that there's something there, especially when you compare him with somebody like Dexter Lawrence. I mean,
he holds up on doubles better than a lot of early second-round defensive tackles that people like.
And
the only defensive tackle in this class that is consistently better than him in the run, besides Jalen Carter, is Mozzie Smith out of Michigan.
Right, exactly. And Mozzie's really good, but he does a different thing.
But Brzee has some negatives too.
Oh yeah, it's not that easy.
Answer it.
No. Yeah, answer it. Oh, is it a time?
It's an alert.
It's an alert. So I think Brzzee's in play at 25.
Me too. Oh yeah, I think he's like 7th on my realistic 10 big board.
I need to hear your thoughts on him and like what you think. What's your value? Well, obviously, we'll talk on the draft stream about all this too. You know, we'll have 2.5 hours to. You know, I'm really excited for the Bears pick, by the way.
Can't wait.
But Bruzzy's a guy that you watch his 2022 stuff. What did I say?
Brzee.
What did I say? Bruzzy?
Bruzzy.
No, I think it actually is. I think it is Bruzzy.
We got to find it out before Thursday night.
Look on NFL.com when it has the pronunciation. I'm pretty sure it's Bruzzy.
Is it Bruzzy?
Bobby's gonna tell me in about 5 seconds. But you know, you watch his 2022 tape and it's like not good. Like I don't see like first. I see like good player, but I don't see like first round player. But then you watch 2021 preseason ending injury, and then you maybe even watch 2020, and it's like, okay, that's the first round talent. Second year coming off the ACL, we all know that that's a thing. You know,
Brzee.
It's Brzee.
Yeah, Brzee.
Brzee.
But you don't. It's not like Brzee. It's Brzee.
I think we're both right, Robert.
Justin, we're caught up on what's going on. What happened in Brzzee's life at the time, right?
Yeah. This is what I have forgotten that.
Off an injury too.
I forgot that multiple times, and I do feel bad even just saying it again. He looks like a much different, better player in 2021 and in 2020.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's. I don't. Well, there you go. It's Brzee.
So are we all wrong?
No, you nailed it.
It's Bruzzy.
Brzee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brzee.
I heard. See, what I do is I go and listen to a broadcast and hear how they.
Well, they could be wrong too.
Yeah, but they're not supposed to be wrong. They're supposed to be right.
They're wrong all the time. There's no way you guys don't have weird. They called Alshon Jeffries for forever. Like, nobody got Kyle Fuller's name right, but that's not the point. Yeah. Like, there's always risk when somebody's got some kind of weird asterisk like Brzee does in 2022. I know another great example of this is Jackson Smith-Jigba, which I've seen mocks taking him anywhere from 15, 13, down to 17, down to 20. So come draft day, who knows? Bobby, I know that's one of your favorite players, but he functionally missed his whole 2022 season. And does that bother everybody? It does everybody have him high up on the draft board. That's what makes this process so fun is think guys like Kalijah Cansey, where we would sit here and we would all go, good player, yes, good player, yes, good player, yes. Who's to say he's going to get chosen when he, quote unquote, should? You know what I mean? I cannot wait to see who's there all the way at 25.
Yeah. So let's get some questions in.
Before I do that, I want to read an ad.
Oh, we have an ad for this?
Justin may have. I'm not going to go into the details. Today's sponsor.
We have an ad for the draft stream?
Today's live stream is sponsored by SeatGeek. If you don't know what SeatGeek is, you are low-key a dummy. Is there a ticketing app that makes buying tickets super simple? That's what they are. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek, they are the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events every single day on SeatGeek, including sports, concerts, festivals, and more. Join Bobby Skinner and Robert Schmitz at the Mets game tomorrow.
Go to the Mets game with us tomorrow. With section.
I gotta edit the audio. I gotta do the description. I gotta put it out. I gotta make sure everything looks good. I may make some clips. I mean, you know, Justin does a lot. I do a lot more than just. I'm a lot more than a pretty face here.
You don't want to come and talk baseball?
Yeah, talking baseball. I know it like the back of my hand.
Section 303.
Section 303. Join Bobby Skinner. Join Robert Schmitz. JM Mets. It's like a huge contingency of John Boy Media people that are going. So you can go on SeatGeek and you can use promo code GIANTS for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code GIANTS. Best thing about sitting in Section 303, if you've never used SeatGeek before, you can use the $20 to get $20 off your first purchase. And I think you'll basically you'll get like half your ticket off, which will be kind of cool. Click the link in the description to download the app. Thanks to SeatGeek.
It's very hard to not continue to do this.
Yeah, you're a big finagle guy. You like to.
We found out Robert is that way too.
Oh, I'm very that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been. There's a bat. You picked the bat up, of course. It's a culture of violence. It never stops. There's a
scratch-off ticket here. Reveal.
lot of Jonathan Mingo talk in the chat throughout the whole stream.
Well, I mean, he's wily. He deserves.
Let's talk about him. Why do you think for a guy who's 6'2", 220 pounds, like when he's facing press, decides to like run around it?
I think it's just. I think there's some guys that trust their size and some guys that don't. You know,
like it's so weird. Like you would think he'd be like attack the back, rip through press, and he's just like veering 5 yards inside to try and get around press. And
Yep.
And it leaves him struggling.
there are pieces of this that I would love to pretend that I can live inside everybody's head. Wouldn't that be a terrifying thought? But there are some guys, obviously Quentin Johnston's the most popular example, but like Quentin Johnston and the Mingo's another bad example. I'm trying to think of another one that I can think of that's like he's a tall guy, but he doesn't play tall and doesn't play very big. Because I can think of a bunch of short guys like Jaden Reed that play much bigger than 5'11", but they are 5'11",
Well,
right?
Mingo's good, like in contested, like
Sure.
contested catches situations. I wanted to see him just grow and become an awesome outside receiver.
Sure.
He has the ability, but wouldn't he be like an awesome, like quote unquote big slot in the NFL?
I think so.
You know, because he's pretty damn good route running versus off coverage. Like in the zone stuff, and obviously we saw the dude can just like he can have his own highlight tape of blocking plays, like we were talking about on the on our wide receiver preview on Monday, like. Ole Miss would literally in the red zone in the goal line would just line him up at tight end or H-back and let him like do wham blocks and stuff, and he did well. Like, so it's like that is like as like the NFL gets lighter and lighter on defense, like Jonathan Mingo's like the perfect counterpart to that, where it's like this dude's gonna block like a tight end in the slot, and then obviously can do all the wide receiver stuff too.
And he fits in the Giants system really well because they love that pin and pull run, and you need a pinner. Right?
Yeah.
And so if you've got a wide receiver like Mingo that you think will get you even 35% of the blocks against that end, like that's a big deal. I think Rashee Rice and Mingo both make a lot of sense as that big slot kind of guy. But Mingo, I think at the very least you're going to try to see if you can get some value out of him at X receiver.
He's strong. He's too strong to not.
Right, exactly.
He's got to be. Hopefully he's a coachable player where
Right.
Because it's like. There's no reason why he shouldn't be able to just go and beat press.
And you never know whether or not the NFL receiving coaching is going to change his attitude. You can never exactly audit these college receiving coaches. I mean, the college position coach is a huge question,
Obviously, Ole Miss
especially.
plays in a weird offense.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. I mean, it reminds me of the way people talk about Johnston, to use an example, because Sonny Dykes in that TCU offense didn't want an alpha X receiver. So and that always makes me wonder whether Johnston's got a little bit more juice in there.
We were on the phone like a month ago talking for 45 minutes, and I think 5 minutes of it was like, I hate Max Duggan for the way he used Quentin Johnston.
Yep. And that's not to say that I think Johnston's going to be a stud. It's more that question of, is the juice worth the squeeze? One question I do want to answer. I am not related to John Michael Schmitz.
That's actually, I was going to ask you.
I'm surprised more people haven't asked it. I think it's hilarious. There are a lot of people mocking him to the Bears because the Bears have terrible center play, and I just always wonder what would actually happen to me if a Schmitz got drafted to the Bears, and people would be like, "Oh, well, of course he loves JMS. That's his brother."
It's your cousin.
No.
Your cousin.
So what is your guys' first? What pick do you guys have in the second round?
In the second round, we start at 53 because we traded for Chase Claypool, which worked so well.
Yeah, I know. But I remember you guys got a second rounder back from the Panthers.
That was 61. So we're
Okay.
still starting at 53 right now. Okay. But, I mean, who's to say that they're going to stay at 9? I don't know either, Justin. And so there's a lot of this kind of stuff that Bobby's cousin is J.L. Skinner.
Yeah,
I
they were
love that.
related.
That's my boy. Get well, JL. All right, let's get some questions. How far along are we in this?
Somebody mentioned Deontay Banks at 25. Thoughts?
I'd be fine with it, but I think there's going to be players I like more than Deontay Banks. I have some worries about Banks. Tyreek Stevenson in the second round would make me feel a lot better than Banks in the first round.
What do you think about Cam Smith out of South Carolina?
He's very grabby. Very, very grabby. I like him, but not pick 25.
Him and Emmanuel Forbes. I want to know who's like representing them or right. What, because I want whatever magic they have the last month, because Emmanuel Forbes has turned into like a second or a third rounder to a first rounder. And like the same thing with Cam Smith. Like Cam Smith at the Senior Bowl was like, oh, this guy's having a good week. He's kind of like an underrated guy. And now he's being, what does Brugler have him ranked? We talked about this, like 21?
Who?
Cam Smith.
No, I think he's lower on.
You think he's lower?
Yeah, because he has.
Smith was at the Senior Bowl, but for what it's worth.
Darius Rush was.
Darius Rush.
I'm an idiot.
That's okay.
Yeah, you're thinking Darius Rush.
And he
who
did
has
have
him,
a
like-
really good Senior Bowl.
Stop talking.
We just talked about Darius Rush on a video that'll be coming out tomorrow.
I thought they both were.
It's okay.
Tyreek
it's okay.
Stevenson is probably my favorite like corner compared to where he's being projected.
Do you know why he's falling? Because I don't. Like, I've seen at some point he was high round 2, and now he's become low round 2.
I hope he stays at low round 2 because I want
Yeah.
him for the Giants. He's
I mean,
a
that's-
perfect fit.
That's a value pick for all kinds of defenses, for
Like,
crying out loud.
he's a scheme independent corner. Like you put him in press man, he'll do that. You could put him in zone. Like in press man, he's very good in that, and like that's the most valuable thing you can be as a corner is a press man corner. But like in zone, like he understands what offenses are doing, man, and he's great at identifying what that wide receiver is about to run and being able to jump it. You know, it reminds me of James Bradbury. You know, who is like a bigger corner. You can press guys up a little bit, maybe not be able to run with everyone totally in man, but he IDs what you're doing, and he's going to undercut stuff. He's going to jump stuff. I really like Tyreek Stevenson. You know, he only gave up 17 catches this past year, and I think he gave like 360 total yards according to PFF. Go look at the UNC game where it's just like he gave up 145 yards in that game. One was a total busted coverage, which I don't think was his fault. I'm almost for sure it's the safety's fault. But even then, it's like, how much are we expecting a guy who plays this smart on a down-in, down-out basis to have busted coverages? And the other one, which was, I think the safety was over-aggressive one way, and he got beat on a post in the middle of the field, and there was no safety presence out of cover 3.
Right.
No safety presence there, and he got beat on the post. So it's like half of his yards that he gave up this past year were on those 2 catches, according to PFF.
Exactly. And I mean, every corner's going to get beat. I'll tell you, it sounds like I may
Except for Sauce Gardner.
Except for Sauce Gardner. I may like Deontay Banks a little more than you do, and I think that's okay. I love a toolsy corner, and Deontay Banks is a wild athlete.
4.35 40, 42-inch vertical jump.
All of it. All of it.
And he moves, like, again, another scheme independent player. Like,
Right.
moves around the field really great. I do see. Here's the thing with Deontay Banks is he does get beat pretty badly here or there. Like, as much speed as he has, there's times where he loses the release in man too often for me and is playing from behind. And while he has the speed to recover, he doesn't always. You know, like there's a Ronnie Bell crosser that, scored a touchdown on him. And there's times where even if the ball's not thrown, he just gets beat vertically for a guy who runs a 4.35 40. But obviously you just want him to get better at there. But it's like you have those top 3 corners, of Witherspoon, Gonzalez,
Right.
and Joey Porter Jr. Forbes moves better than anybody on the field, has those
Outstanding.
instincts. No one closes cushion better than him. Tyreek Stevenson. Deontay Banks, the reason why I'm not in love with him, because I'm like, what is your thing? Like all these
Right.
guys I can point to their thing. Deontay Banks is well-rounded, good athlete, but there's more misses on film with him than all the other guys that are talked about.
Which makes sense. Like, that's a good way to put it. Just because it's helpful if you've got a piece to your game that you're like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And
he can grow, obviously. Like now
That's
he's a
what I'm
better
counting
better zone corner than man corner. So he should, right? But corner is also a position where it can really, really bust.
and that's
too.
a good point that maybe
And
that's.
if you lose the release in the NFL, you're losing the rep.
And I mean, let's be honest here. So, what did you say is the Giants' second pick? Second number?
57.
57. 57's a really good spot for a corner, right? You may not get a
Tyree
CB1.
Stevenson is my hope there.
Stevenson, but if you end up with Brents, if you end up with Rush, if you end up with another one of these big long guys that can beat you up at the line of scrimmage and still play a little cover 3, because while DJ Turner's great, DJ Turner's a little small. Maybe he'll be slot.
But he's not tiny small. He's just not big.
He's not what is again. I have to always remind myself his name. Trevius.
It'd be funny for the Giants to
Tomlinson.
take a nickel corner for 4 years in a row on day 2 if they did DJ Turner. Actually, DJ Turner might play outside in the NFL. Even he does reach that 30-inch
Cutoff.
that 30-inch arm cutoff too. So
He could, It wouldn't surprise me if in y'all's defense, it reminds me, not the same thing as the Bears' more cover 2 based defense, but I think those round 2 corners that have all kinds of size, even if they're not necessarily like lockdown CB1s, like, I don't know, Christian Gonzalez or Witherspoon or somebody like that, that you get a little more value, right? Because if, let's say, you got Kalijah Kancey, who plays next to a guy who basically can cover 2.5 gaps. Dexter Lawrence is so good. And so Kancey adds a little bit of pass rush, and then you get a Tyreek Stevenson.
Would be so fun, the Giants, now that they have 4 2-gappers.
Exactly.
And
right?
Dex, Leo, Ashawn, and Nunez Roches.
I mean, you have studs all throughout. I mean, that's a Super Bowl foundation defensive line. And then if you add like a Tyreek Stevenson, again, is he going to lock down a bunch of other wide receiver ones? Probably not, but he'll be more competitive. He'll challenge defensive or offensive game plans. He'll step up what you have at corner. You know what I mean? And you could end up turning a Giants defense a little bit and ending up with some real weaponry on that backside.
So you're in for defense at
Good question.
now?
I get it. I mean, it's more like I could see a bunch of different ways that the bread gets made. You know what I mean? If you wanted to take a defensive lineman at 57, there could very well be some decent options available. We don't really know where Adetomiwa Adebaware is going to get picked, right? I think right now he looks like a defensive end playing 3-tech, but he's fairly new to the position. He's extraordinarily explosive. The good reps look really good. So who's to say? But it wouldn't surprise. Like, I think the wide receiver still makes. It's the pick that gets me most excited. Am I allowed to say that? Like, wide receivers always get me excited.
Yeah, because if you're talking about maybe some defensive guys outside of, like, for Branch, for Kancey, at like defensive, like we got a question of do we think edges at play at 25, and like my brain goes to
Miles Murphy
if
Miles Murphy falls,
if the receivers are gone, if the 2 defensive guys that we want are gone, if the big corners are gone, and I'm talking like
there's a world where Zay Flowers and Addison aren't there too.
Correct, which I think it's possible, and I think it's likely.
I think it's likely Flowers won't be there. Addison is the one I have a hard time getting a read on. But we've seen wide receivers get drafted high. Like Jahan Dotson went in the top 15 last year.
Right.
Yeah. So is edge and play at 25? I mean, I'm even thinking like where like is BJ Ojolari on your realistic board?
I don't want to give it away, but he's number 10.
He's number 10. Yeah. Okay. So I honestly think the way that I'm going to do it, Bobby, like I have it, like my big board for 25. You know, there's the 15 players that you tweeted out, right? And then I'm like making mine. I may even make like I know you can't snap your fingers and make a trade, but if there's certain guys that are gone, I'm gonna list on my board, I want a trade. Like I don't want to. They may have to pick there because teams may not want to trade, but I'm gonna label it for myself. If these guys are gone, I would like to move back and get another top 100 pick, because you feel much because there's so many guys where it's like, well, I feel better about this guy at 57. I feel better about John Michael Schmitz at 57. I feel better about this guy at 57. I feel better about Adetomiwa Adebaware at 57. So there's so many of those guys that you feel better at 57, then the ideal world would be to get another top 100 pick where there's a lot of players that you like in the top 100 of the draft versus the top 50.
There's a lot of Nolan Smith questions in the comments.
That he's another one.
What do you think about him? Because he's fast as hell, and he plays it, and he has good production, but he's very tiny too. Like, let me pull up his size.
He's small. He defends extremely well for his size. Like, again, we talked earlier about how there's some receivers that show their size in their play. He's not one of those guys.
6'2", 238.
Right, but he's small. I'll tell you, I always get irrationally worried when I see somebody have a pectoral injury, and he tore his pec this year. So it's not like I can't emphasize enough. I mean it when I say it's irrational. Like, for some reason, something flashes in my brain and is like, that's serious damage. Are we going to have the same player? And so you've got an injury red flag with a guy that's fast as hell. Just like every other Georgia defender, he didn't produce. So you don't have some silly, crazy sack set to point to.
But I will say he produced on film. Where, like,
oh, yeah.
When people always bring up, like, the scheme stuff with Trayvon Walker last year, it's like, okay, but the scheme doesn't ask him to not use his hands at all.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
Nolan Smith, his film produces.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, when he gets his chances, he goes crazy. If I can ask this, do y'all know whether Wink Martindale likes heavier edge rushers versus lighter ones?
athletes. Guys that are
Yeah, we don't have a
just
great
athletic.
reach. I mean, in Baltimore, they would look for kind of guys who can drop. They would go get guys like Judon, obviously.
Right.
They drafted Kayvon, who can. He's never going to be like a great edge setter, but he's a two-way player. Aziz, Jihad. He loves Jihad Ward, who is very much a heavy edge, but he's also
They
a
drafted away a couple years ago.
rotation. So yeah, they look for speed. They look for speed in that. Like
Okay.
you just mentioned Owe. So yeah.
And I mean, especially since Nolan Smith has like some experience at off-ball linebacker, though you're not drafting an off-ball backer at 25. And
Yeah, I don't think he's playing there in the NFL.
I don't think he's playing there in the NFL either. I don't know. I'm so curious as to where he's gonna go. Like Giants, not Giants. I don't know where Logan Smith's getting drafted because I think he has a chance to be like the 4th choice on every team's big board until he finally lands somewhere in like the 30s. But I don't know.
And he's similar to, I put him in the same breath as like Cansey because
Right.
you look at their trump card, right? Which their trump card is their athleticism, their lateral movement, but it's just the size. It's the size. So, I mean, if you can get past that or, if you can, put on 10, 15 pounds in the NFL, if everybody can just snap your fingers and put on 10 pounds, if you can get past that, like Nolan Smith's trump card, similar to Kalijah Cansey, is better than like 95% of the players in this draft.
Right.
And what they do best. I did just see.
Someone said you
Jordan-
guys are ridiculous. Diggs isn't happening.
I think he's talking about the chat.
Yeah, there are some chatters talking
There's
about it.
okay.
I love when the chat talks about the chat. I'm not gonna say it.
All right then.
Not gonna say it. Not gonna say it. Walt, Walt, WBG84.
Yeah. I
Um,
just say WBG84.
Thank you. His name is Walt. Jordan Ronan, Breaking Big Blue. Giants have been doing a lot of work on Jonathan Mingo, and they're pretty high on him. How do you like that? I
I do like that.
didn't think that because he's just bigger and
Do you
a
like him
little
at
slower.
57?
Um,
'Cause I don't think he's going to last at 89.
well, WBG just mentioned says he's maybe a sleeper for 25th overall, but more likely an option in the second round. I started this draft process as thinking that Jonathan Mingo was like a 4th rounder, and now he's like a 2nd rounder, and now he's getting like I thought it was more fan fiction that it was like 1st round. Apparently, is it like a real thing that he's like rumored? I don't know. 3rd round is where I'm comfortable.
I don't see him in the 1st round. Do you?
No. I mean,
No.
57, I think I'd like other players there, but I'm okay with it.
That's a little rich. It's just so crazy. Like pre-Senior Bowl,
Here's the thing. Is
5th rounder.
Here is the thing. What have we been saying, Justin? Is like, who is a late round 2, round 3 wide receiver who we can look back at and say, that is like, man, how they missed. He's a wide receiver 1 in the NFL.
Mingo is one of those ones that I feel most confident about.
Well, basically, my only answer has been Mingo.
Yeah.
Like all of these wide receivers I like, I don't see the one potential with them when we talk late 2nd, 3rd round. Mingo's the only one where it's like, I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of really solid wide receiver 2s and wide receiver 3s in this draft. Like I feel like that's the big word for these wide receivers, right? Bobby's like solid contributors. But there's so much less flash in the pan, Like there's not near as many guys that could potentially dominate. I mean, back in the day, DJ Moore was a 2nd round pick. I mean, what's his name? DJ. How am I blanking on his name? I keep wanting to
I
go.
thought DJ Moore was the first.
DJ Moore, I would have sworn he was pick number 44. Maybe I'm wrong. And then there was obviously the guy on Seattle whose name is just completely escaping me.
DK Metcalf?
Like he ended up in the 2nd round at 1.2, and I don't feel like those athletic projects really exist in this one. Where you're saying, well, maybe, but probably not.
He was picking the 1st round.
Did Moore? That
Yeah.
makes sense.
So I remember Trey Wingo making the stupid crab cakes and football Maryland joke. That's the only reason I remember that.
That's the kind of thing that gets in your head,
Yeah.
Just rig us in there.
That guy loves wedding crashers. What were we saying? Sorry, I had to go figure
Mingo.
that out.
We were talking about wide receiver. This draft seems like it's more heavy on wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3s than like wide receiver 1s.
Yeah, I agree. Someone said A.J. Brown, too. So 2019 was the first year I started doing draft stuff, and A.J. Brown is one of mine. Like, maybe I don't – that class, A.J. Brown and Stephon Diggs, I was like, these guys are great. And they went second and third round, and I was like, this gave me a lot of more confidence than I had before, and they ended up being great. And then I said I love De'Ami Brown, and I was totally fucking wrong on that.
It happens. Somebody asked earlier, how excited are we about this draft compared to other ones? I feel like I'm excited for every draft when it finally comes around to it. This is the
scared.
one. Yeah, this is the. Why are you scared though?
Because it's pick 25. That's when crazy shit happens.
And last year really like
Imagine being a Raiders fan and every year it's like fucking what was the guy that they took out of Clemson?
Clelin Ferrell.
It's like what the fuck? And it's like Alex Leatherwood. It's like every year a fucking surprise. Why do you guys have to do this shit to us every year?
No, but I mean last year put a little bit of a scare into us, at least from in the moment with content, because we stream every single second of the draft, so you see our reactions to every single pick that the Giants make. And last year it was just like
Terry McLaurin. I'd said Stephon Diggs. I meant Terry McLaurin.
Idiot. Yeah.
I was like, Diggs went in the fourth. Like, and suddenly I was like, wow.
Yeah,
Bobby,
you did like scary Terry right away.
That's the thing is Terry McLaurin was Stephon Diggs was my pro comp for Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, there you go. But last year really kind of threw us off. I mean, the infamous. I actually was just talking to Dan Canobio and Jolly Olive today. Maybe one of those
Someone
guys.
said, I don't think we have the luxury of investing for later years right now.
What does that mean?
That means like we need to draft for win now right now. That's insane.
I mean,
That's
it's
insane to
built.
have that
It's
mindset.
a.
I love you, D-Kit. That's an insane mindset.
What's
that
a?
is how Dave. That's literally Dave Gettleman 2021.
Yeah, but what's the saying? Compete for today, build for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what the Giants are doing right now.
Yeah, obviously it's not like yeah, but it's like
I mean, okay, can you think of a positive pick that has come over the years out of drafting for winning soon? I mean, the moment you start counting on a rookie, right? Like if
at the same time, it's like your first round pick is always supposed to be win now because it's like it's one of the best 32 players in your mind for a team.
well, you're expecting
So
him
it's
to
like
contribute.
you're expecting that, yeah.
But let's use Kancey as a decent example. If you were saying that the first overall, your first pick in the first round has to be for winning soon, right? Very, very, very soon. You might be more led to pick something more needy, right? You're picking Kancey because you think he's the best player, don't you?
To say like we need to get them squeeze the most wins possible at 2023, it's wide receiver.
Frankly, I think it's going to be tough for, okay, so I hope this doesn't get me banned, but I think it's going to be tough for the 2023 New York Giants to perform better than the 2022
Their
New York
schedule's
Giants.
tougher.
They may end up being a team that could beat the 2022 New York Giants in a head-on-head football
D-Kit
game.
was talking about drafting a tight end at 25. Okay, fair enough.
Right.
We're not drafting a tight end at 25.
I don't think you're
That's like
talking
the one BPA position. It's like, nah.
And there's a bunch of hot zones throughout this draft, you know? The late first is really good if you want a corner. It stretches into the second round. You and I have talked about this, Bobby, on that video that'll come out. I won't spoil everything. The tight end class, when you get to that third or fourth round, really, really good. So it's got me wondering at this point whether guys like Michael Mayer or Dalton Kincaid are going to provide you the best value out of tight ends in this draft just because there are as many good ones behind them that you'll be able to get later. But we'll see. Either way, my hope would be that Giants fans and the Giants organization don't overreact to a quote-unquote step backwards when it's just a regression, and that's okay. Like in terms of statistical regression, I think that the quality of the team could get a lot better next year. And
they won a lot of one-score games.
Exactly. And if you prepare for that well, 2024 could be a really, really good season.
I still think the expectations should be to make the playoffs for the Giants this year.
The NFC sucks.
Oh, the NFC is bad.
Like if you sign Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley's here for another year. You know, you don't make any like big cuts. I do think the Giants fans should expect the playoffs. Now they shouldn't I don't think they should even expect like, hey, we're gonna go to the second round again. You know, like that's the hope. It's not an unrealistic hope, but it's not that's not an expectation. But the expectation should be for the Giants to be in the playoffs. All right, let's Let's end this. We like to keep these live streams like 45 minutes.
Bobby
So
D-Kit wants to know, what if Bijan fell to 25?
No. It's the Giants aren't in a spot to do that. Here's the thing is I haven't even watched Bijan besides highlights.
Well, I mean, he's Bijan Robinson.
But I think Bijan's going to go in the top 15. And here's a thing that some people won't like. I think he should go in the top 15. Like, if I'm the Eagles, I'm seriously considering that. Like, you just signed Jalen Hurts. Get him an awesome, awesome weapon. You know, you lost Miles Sanders. Who's the back that they signed? Was it Foreman?
No, Deontay Foreman went to the Bears.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the Eagles signed.
Yeah, I'm not part of the you never draft a running back in the first round crowd. I think for the most part you don't. But a guy like Bijan who's supposed to be special, like, yeah, would I take him if the Giants had the second overall pick again? No, absolutely not. But for a team like the Eagles, like, I would 100% entertain that.
Washington may draft him.
I don't think that's smart for Washington.
It's not, but they.
No, I don't think that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, let's end this live stream. We'll be back tomorrow, probably around the same time, doing our draft day pod and our mock draft. So very excited for that. Yeah, go check out the JM Football channel. We got the draft film breakdowns on it. We have a video that'll come out tomorrow. Me and Robert talking about mid-round prospects we like.
Draft day, the both of you are going to go live and run through a mock draft.
Are we doing that on draft day, or are we doing that tomorrow?
We can do either.
We can do either or.
Keep on talking Giants for updates.
It makes sense to go live on draft day.
Yeah, we'll do it on draft day.
I think
that
draft day makes sense.
Yes, that we'll do that on draft day. All right, sounds good. We'll see you guys. Let's go Big Blue.
Let's do it.